Verb. A helping verb comes before a main verb. It helps the main verb show action. I am resting. The helping verb is am. The main verb is resting. Here are some common helping verbs. Forms of to be, am, are, is, was, were. Forms of to have, has, have, had. Forms of to do, does, did. Modal verbs, can, could, may, might, will, would, shall, should, must. The helping verb always goes before the main verb, but the two verbs are not always next to each other. I am finally resting. Modal verb. Modal verbs are helping verbs that express certain conditions. Some examples of modal verbs are can, could, may, might, must, should, will, and would. The verb can shows ability. Nate can ride a bike. The verb could shows past ability, or a request. Laura could do cartwheels when she was younger. Could you bring me that book? The verb may shows possibility, giving permission, or a request for permission. Ben may be able to come tomorrow. You may leave early if you've turned in your test. May I be excused from the table? The verb might shows possibility. Jessica might join the swim team. The verb must shows necessity or near certainty. Thomas must finish the project by tomorrow. After staying up so late, you must be tired. The verb should shows advice or expectation. You should bring your umbrella. We should be finished by noon. The verb will shows future action. Mr. Lee will speak at the meeting. The verb would shows what would happen under a certain condition. I would go, if I had the time. Compound subject. A compound subject is made up of two subjects joined by the conjunction and or. Mark and Amanda this week or next week. When a compound subject is joined by and, it is treated as plural, so use a plural verb. Plural verbs usually do not end in s, is, or is. Jen and Andy go to the beach in the summer. When a compound subject is joined by or, it can be treated as singular or plural. Use a verb that agrees with the subject closest to the verb. If the subject closest to the verb is singular, use a singular verb. Singular verbs end in s, is, or is. My parents or Emily brings me soup when I'm sick. If the subject closest to the verb is plural, use a plural verb. Plural verbs usually do not end in s, is, or is. Emily or my parents bring me soup when I'm sick. Example. Look at the verb decorate. It is a plural verb. Now look at the answer choices. Mrs. Campbell's son is a singular subject, so it should be used with a singular verb. Mrs. Campbell's son decorates. Mrs. Campbell or the boys is a compound subject joined by the conjunction or. The subject closest to the verb is the boys. It is a plural subject, so it should be used with a plural verb. Mrs. Campbell or the boys decorate. Therefore, the best subject to complete the sentence is Mrs. Campbell or the boys. Present tense verbs tell you about something that is happening now. Most present tense verbs are regular. They have no ending, or they end in sir, is. Two verbs are irregular in the present tense, to be and to have. You must remember their forms. Past tense verbs tell you about something that has already happened. Most past tense verbs are regular. They end in ed. Some verbs are irregular in the past tense. You must remember their past tense forms. Future tense verbs tell you about something that is going to happen. All future tense verbs use the word will. Present, past, future. Walk, walks, walked, will walk. Go, goes, went, will go. The past tense usually tells about something that has already happened. To form the regular past tense, start with the base form of the verb. Then follow these rules. For most verbs, add to the base form. Walk, walked. They walked to school last Friday. If the base form ends in e, add d. Bike, biked. They biked to school last Friday. If the base form ends in consonant y, change y to I and add ed. Hurry, hurried. They hurried to school last Friday. If the base form ends in a short vowel and a consonant, double the consonant and add ed. Jogged. They jogged to school last Friday. Most verbs are regular in the past tense. That means you follow a rule like add ed or add d to get the past tense form of the verb. Some verbs are irregular in the past tense. That means you don't follow a rule. Instead, you must remember the past tense form of the verb. Jacob lost his keys. Haley drew a picture. Alex bought a gift. Zoe wore her boots. Present tense verbs tell you about something that is true or is happening now. The present tense form of a verb must agree with its subject in number. Singular subjects go with singular verbs. To form most singular present tense verbs, add s. For verbs that end in sh, ch, s, x, and z, add es. For verbs that end in consonant y, change the y to I and add es. Snow falls outside my window. Dylan washes the dishes. Susan carries the boxes to her room. Plural subjects, I and you go with plural verbs, which have no ending. Ice cubes float in water. You look nice today. Two verbs are irregular in the present tense, to be and to have. You must remember their forms. The soup is too hot. Aaron has long hair. The tense of a verb tells when the action takes place. Do not shift tenses within or between sentences, unless you need to reflect a time change. Rachel grabbed the microphone and spoke to the crowd. There is no need to reflect a time change, so both verbs should be in the same tense. The progressive tense describes ongoing actions. It tells about something that is, was, or will be happening. The present progressive tense tells about something that is happening right now. It uses the helping verb is, am, or are. Julie is playing basketball right now. The past progressive tense tells about something that was happening in the past. It uses the helping verb was or were. Seth was talking to Mrs. Jones when the phone rang. The future progressive tense tells about something that will be happening in the future. It uses the helping verb will be. Karen will be visiting next June. The perfect tense usually tells about something that has, had, or will have happened. It uses a form of the helping verb to have with the past participle of a verb. The past participle of a verb is usually the same as its past tense form, but not always. Some verbs have irregular past participles. You have to remember them. Toby had seen that movie. I have run a marathon. The tree has grown taller. Clara will have eaten dinner. The past tense does not use the helping verb to have. It uses the past tense form of the verb. Toby saw that movie. I ran a marathon. The tree grew taller. Clara ate dinner. The perfect tense usually describes completed actions. It tells about something that has, had, or will have happened. The present perfect tense tells about something that has happened or has started already. It uses the helping verb has or have. The airplane has arrived at the gate already. John and Erica have played the violin for 5 years. The past perfect tense tells about something that had happened before something else. It uses the helping verb had. We had finished dinner by the time Tim arrived. The future perfect tense tells about something that will have happened by a certain point in the future. It uses the helping verb will have. The race will have started by noon tomorrow.